rampite.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So I thought today, rather than just talking about Bitcoin, because it's been the same at least for a couple of days, where we entertain the idea of it coming to breaking down to any of these particular lows, but as we spliced all the way down to the CME gap and turned that to a resistance, it does look pretty much inevitable that we're going to come down into the $38,000 zone. So mid 38,000 is effectively where I'll be looking for this to turn around for a little bounce and then see where we go from there. Again, I've been saying for a while, especially on the live streams, that we're looking for major opportunities next month, really. March and then probably April we'll see some decent moves. But again, that's to do with things outside of this chart, really. Clarification on Fed rate hikes, all that sort of jazz. Although we expect most of it to be priced in, we just need that clarification, because there are telling things on this chart to suggest that obviously we were quite high in the money flow index. We were inviting sells to take place, and that's what's happening right now. But the absolute inverse of that's taking place on the weekly, with the money flow index read lower than we've seen on the Binance chart. Again, we've spoken about this, and although this doesn't particularly have amazing significance when it comes to spotting lows, this was a 100% bounce from this level here. This was a 30% bounce from here, with a further 50% retrace. So it's not the greatest. And then these lows here, we got a 40% move here, and then all of this stuff was just meandering going up, really, getting ready for an inevitable big push up. And then the next major low that we had was over here, and that gave us a fairly sizable move. That was the last time that we saw a money flow index of significantly low levels, and that was 142%, give or take, from that particular level. And we are pretty low. Like I say, this is pretty massively low. And that goes to show really the lack of new money coming into it, which is why we're praying. We're not praying. We're just patiently waiting for clarification of how significant the rate hike is going to be. Is inflation still out of control? What the hell are you going to do? Just please tell us so we can base our lives around it effectively. So that's Bitcoin in a nutshell, no different to yesterday. But I wanted to talk about XRP. XRP surprisingly looking okay, for what it's worth. Now, this isn't the pillar of strength. This is just something I wanted to show you. And we spotted this, well, about a week ago. We got a conversion baseline. We got basically everything that you'd want to see for a continuation of a trend. So there's two ways to play the Itchy Cloud. I'm going to make a video on this on request of some of my Telegram members. But effectively, the best way to trade with the Ichimoku Cloud is to get one of the signals that we've got on the XRP to BTC daily chart. So what you look for is this blue crossing this red. This is your conversion line, this is your baseline. So the baseline being the red, the blue being the conversion line. When you get a cross above the cloud, that's stage one. It doesn't matter necessarily which way of these three indicators that you use at the same time. The Itchy Cloud is about marrying in this instance, three components to generate a signal. So that's one component. We've got a cross that took place above the cloud. Doesn't matter if it's green or red, just needs to be above it. The next thing would be price action. The price action also has to be above the cloud. It's almost certainly going to have to happen to get across above the cloud. It doesn't always happen, but it would be extremely rare to not have price above the cloud anyway. So you've got the price above the cloud, you've got the Ichimoku conversion baseline above the cloud as well. And then the next thing, the third thing, is to have this little squiggly line here. This is your Chiku span. That needs to be above price action. So not above the cloud, but above price action. And those three things suggest continuation of a trend from roughly where the cross was generated. So the cross was generated, it was these are kind of difficult to really say where the cross was, but I would say the cross was here after this next big push up. So the cross was generated around these candle body opens and closes. So interestingly enough, current price is below where the signal would have been generated, but who cares? We got the signal, so what we'd be looking for now would be a trend to form. Notice that we're above pretty much all major moving averages, especially the exponentials. It's only this 200 simple that we're below, this yellow one here, and I don't hold a great deal of weight to the 200 simple on XRP. It's the shadow of the 200 exponentials, and I prefer the exponential to the simple. But when we're dealing with Bitcoin pairs, sometimes simple moving averages count better, because you might recognize, maybe not so much on this chart, but you might recognize that Bitcoin pairs are less volatile than Tether pairs, because the two will trend with the market. XRP and Bitcoin will trend with the market. That will give less volatility, less percents, because basically if Bitcoin comes down, XRP comes down. You might see XRP emphasize Bitcoin's downtrend, but not as much as it would be on a Tether pair. So simple moving averages, they can be used, but still I prefer the exponentials just in general for crypto. So we're above pretty much all major moving averages since having this big push up and then getting this continuation of a trend signal. We've come down, we've bounced back up, we've come down, and we're being supported on the 10 exponential, which is a bullish place to be. And again, we're above all major moving averages, especially this 200 exponential, which needs to be the building block of any uptrend. That needs to be the moving average below all the others. So on the daily, it looks quite good. Let's have a quick look at some of the oscillators down here. What are these suggesting? Well, we're above the 0 point, still, well, we're not diverging, we're losing momentum, but we're above the 0 point on the MACD with a positive cross all the way back down here. We are, I suppose you'd just say, consolidating really from this big push up, and that would be something you could probably put a formation in to go, okay, so we do have some kind of formation on the daily. We've got ourselves effectively a symmetrical triangle, and you know, this is the kind of area where you'd want to see a breakout really. You don't want to see it meandering all the way to the end of the apex, you want to see it break out sooner rather than later. So the daily, you know, although it does have good indications for a continuation of a trend, we do need to see a breakout from that level. So that's one way to view this. You could take it down to a 4-hourly, and on the 4-hourly, what we see here, if you really wanted to get down and get stuck into it, you could argue that there is a probably you could say we're looking at a ascending triangle. So this is more bullish than bearish, one of these formations, looking a little bit like this. And again, towards the end of the apex, if you want to see this break out and resolve sooner rather than later, because this is a more bullish formation. If we did break out to the up, you'd expect continuation. A breakdown from here, obviously we've got lots of supports below us, but this formation would be irrelevant if it broke down. But the support remains the same, and that support is effectively 2,000 sats. Nice round number, psychological number for those who like them, which is a lot of retailers, I suppose. It's just easy to remember. 2,000 sats, that's my target, 2,000 sats. So we've got a bullish formation that we're still within, so again, we can't be particularly bullish while you're in the formation, but we are in a bullish formation. Looking a little closer, there's another way to play the cloud, and we've got that signal generated on the 4-hourly, and this is a signal that wants a push up. So this could be enough to break us out of the 2,000 sat zone. The way to play this form of the indicator is you wait for a portion of the cloud in the future to go green. Number 1, you look for a cross, doesn't matter where it is, above, below, or in the cloud. We've got number 2, price action above the cloud, 3. And number 4 is the Chiku span once again, but this time it needs to be above the cloud. Doesn't have to be above the price, just needs to be above the cloud. So we've got 4 of those on the 4-hourly. This would suggest a push up. You know, that could be the one that takes us above the 2,000. So on the 4-hourly, it looks quite good as far as the Ichimoku cloud is concerned. But 4-hourly, given the state of the cross here, kind of being formed in a negative then a positive, is a little bit less likely to play out, I would say. But we do have it. Plus we've got our golden cross, we're diverging, we're surfing the Bollinger Band and the 50 exponential. We're above the 0 point, although losing momentum. We don't have any bearish divergence or anything like that. We've got a nice consistent uptrend here, and the money flow index is basically dancing kind of in the middle. So again, it puts more weight on the daily analysis, which is the 50-50 breakout on the symmetrical triangle that we had in the first place. Let's go to the Tether pair just real quick, because I know this is boring you all to death. We do have something similar. It looks a little weak though, I would say. We don't have any Ichi Clouds signals on the daily versus its Tether pairing. We are turning down, so losing momentum, and turning down on all the oscillators down here. So Tether, as far as your monetary value is concerned for holding XRP, does look like it wants to continue down, and if that's the case, then we do have the center of the Bollinger Band here. It's only a little tiny tick down from where we are right now, 75.5 cents. If that breaks, then we would be looking for a larger plunge back down to this current zone, the 65 cent zone, which is a much bigger drop before it gets picked up. They're talking a 15-16% move. That's not completely out of the realms of possibility. Being below the 200 exponential on the daily is a big deal for XRP. Any big move for XRP would take place above the 200 exponential. And you can see we get rejected more or less here, certainly here, and we've not come up to revisit it. So we do want to get above there. We have to get above there if you want to see some sizable moves versus this Tether pairing. Also, if we zoom right out, we can see a giant descending triangle formation getting towards the end of the apex as well. So we're looking for this to break out sooner rather than later, one way or another. But this is a bearish formation because every time it comes up to the top of the resistance, it's less. less returns each time. So this is why it's bearish. Support remains the same, but resistances get lower and lower, so it's bearish. And again, it's more likely to break to the down, unfortunately, in this formation. But given what we just looked at with its Bitcoin pairing, there is signs of particular strength, at least versus Bitcoin, in the immediate time frame. So I'm just going to leave it with you there. Like I say, I'm not making any specific calls on this. I can't say that it's definitely going to break out and go to the moon, but I am an XRP holder. I also trade quite a lot of it on Bybit. That's why I've got such an enormous amount of it, to be honest with you. Because over the last 3 years, I've been trading coin futures on it sporadically. To be honest, maybe even as little as 2 or 3 times a year. But it's when XRP generates a real signal on its Tether pairing, where it does those giant big beast moves. That's where I go to town on the coin futures, and I end up basically stacking XRP for better or for worse. So I do look at it quite frequently, and it does offer generally quite really big moves when it's ready. It's not ready for a giant big move at the moment, but it is showing strength versus its Bitcoin pair, so it could be a little piece of the puzzle that you can slot into an overall bullish picture on XRP. But don't misunderstand this video. This isn't a call to suggest it's going to go all the way up to the moon. In order for that to happen, we can only really entertain that once we're above this 200 exponential, and we're not there yet. So being below it, no good. Above it, absolutely epic moves can take place relatively quickly. Being below it, not so much. So we'll wait and see what happens over the next few weeks. As again, with Bitcoin looking the way it does on the daily, it does entertain the idea of further sells back down into the $38,000 zone. But on the weekly, it's asking desperately for some money to flow into this, for some volume to flow into this, and because the money flow index is so low, that when the money does flow into this on a weekly, when it's this low, the chances are it'll have a sustained large push up, probably wherever it starts this rally up from, whether it's the 38,000 or it comes down to sweep the lows again, maybe even a little lower than that. Maybe that happens. But if it does, that volume indicator does suggest an enormous move, even if it's just a dead cat bounce. Let's just say we swept the lows, the top side of the lows, the 35,000 zone, came all the way up to the center of the Bollinger Band. That's a almost a 50% move, and given the way that this looks, it's very likely to have a substantial turnaround. Honestly, really soon, really soon, on a weekly basis, really soon, which is why, and it's the same as I've been saying for a little while, it'll all coincide with the clarity that all markets require, which is the just give us the rate hike, man, just tell us what it's going to be, just give it to us, so we can base everything that we do around it. That's what we need. That's the clarification. There's no new money, there's no major investment, there's no major buys taking place for Bitcoin or for stocks at the moment because of that, and a few other things, but on a fundamental basis for those reasons, and that shows clearly on the money flow index. However, when this finally turns around, it'll have far to go. It'll really have far to go. It won't give you the absolute low, but it's telling you that being in around these specific lows, although you may sustain, like in this instance, a 50% loss, that's the worst case scenario. But over time, let's just say the 50% loss, where we were roughly around here. The risk to reward would have been 50% down to effectively almost 1,000% up. So on a long-term time frame, which is we're talking weeks here, and that's what, 3 years worth of price action, 3.5 years worth of price action. Risk to reward would be, in this instance, instantly gratifying, then pretty depressing as it went down 50%, and then up 10x effectively. So that's what this is suggesting. I'm not saying that the buying down here is going to give you a 10x, but risk to reward would suggest that any short-term downside from this particular level all the way down to maybe even 30,000 shouldn't take too long for that to play out a giant bounce, and maybe continue with a bullish momentum that goes up to new all-time highs. But for the moment, this is what we're looking at, and transfer that knowledge over to something like XRP, which currently shows strength versus Bitcoin. You could maybe put the two in the same basket and say, well, maybe this is going to be the same for you two. Let's have a look at the money flow index on XRP. It's not quite so oversold and dramatic, you know. It is a better chart, to be honest with you. It is a better chart, ever so slightly better, but it is a better chart. Right, I'll leave it with you there, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.